Philosophy is happening in universities, and most people know that. But what fewer people realise is that philosophy is also happening in schools too. Leeds Philosophy Exchange was conceived as an agora, a kind of marketplace where ideas are exchanged. But it's not a one-way transaction from universities to schools. Here, the students, the academics, the children and the teachers are all bringing something to the table. Philosophy students and academics bring knowledge and experience from philosophical study, so they're encouraging depth and diversity. But teachers are also bringing their knowledge and experience of how philosophy can be used to meet the needs of their kids, so they're informing the pedagogy as well. And the kids, they absolutely love it, and they're running the show, so you can't shut them up quite a lot of the time. And I think the adults, all the adults involved in the project, have had a bit of an eye-opener looking at the kids, the earnestness and the enthusiasm of their responses.
Amazing. Last one, yeah?
I'd invent a machine that if you had one gene of something and you'd put it into it, and it would create an object or creature that the gene was from.
Wow. So you could just conjure up like beings from just one. Wonderful.
That would be epic. You'd make a unicorn.
The purpose of Leeds Philosophy Exchange is to offer everyone involved a rewarding experience of doing philosophy, but it's also to open up some of the possibilities about what practical things you might want to do with philosophy in the future.
When you're an undergraduate philosophy student, there's two questions that people ask you all the time. And the first question is, what is philosophy? And the second question is, what are you going to do with a degree in philosophy? And both of those questions are quite scary because they're both quite difficult to answer. What is philosophy is a terrifying question for any philosopher because it's a really difficult thing to answer. And that's why philosophy is so interesting, but it's definitely something that can be answered. What I find interesting as a philosopher is why people ever ask me that question, because I'm a joint honours student and no one ever asked me, what is English literature? You know, what is English literature? And I think the reason that people never ask me that question is because from the beginning of primary school we study English. We study English literature and geography and history and all these things that people at universities like this now go on and study for a long time. We don't really do philosophy, or at least I didn't think we did before I heard of this project. And I thought that was really sad because to not get to do it until you get to university is a shame because it's really fun. So I was so excited when I heard that this was something that was going to go and happen in primary schools. And being part of this project has just made me think about what philosophy is every single time I go into the classroom.
That it stretches your mind to think outside the box. To open your mind to wider conclusions and to have some fun.
Thinking and using your imagination.
To make people change their ideas about things.
I think schools, primary schools particularly, are very busy places and we do lots of practical activities in the different lessons that we do. And philosophy for children, for me, is brilliant because it gives the children the time to stop and to think about all sorts of issues. I particularly enjoy it because as a teacher I know where I want them to be at the end of a maths lesson or a literacy lesson. The joy of P4C is I don't know where it's going to end up.
My class have really enjoyed doing philosophy this year. I believe they've been able to organise their thoughts a little bit better as a result of it, and they've been also developed the way they've been able to think about the responses. They've also been very respectful of other people's contributions in class, and that's filtered out throughout their whole experience at school really, so I think it's been really beneficial now.
In a typical session, children are presented with intriguing stimulus.
A naughty bot would scan the face of a child and it could tell the very next naughty thing that they would do. And before they'd done it, in advance, it would just tell them off in front of everybody. Sometimes it would punish them, it would give them a detention or send them to the bedroom or something like that.
And from that stimulus, some questions are teased out. One of these questions is explored in a dialogue, led by a facilitator, who encourages the children to justify, critique and connect their ideas.
So we're looking for a thinking question that gets to the heart of what's weird or troubling or mysterious or confusing about this invention. Where's the problem? That's what your question should be asking.
Why should children listen to robots? Does it prevent freedom?
How could it understand what is naughty or good?
How could it understand what is naughty or good? So that's the one that we're going to talk about. Yeah?
I think it would understand what is naughty or good because it would be the programmer would program it to understand.
Right, okay. How does the How does the programmer know what's naughty or good?
Because he was once a kid and he could learn from them.
During the session, the focus is not on teaching the theory of great philosophers. Instead, the emphasis is on encouraging the children to develop their own ideas. So, in this respect, the sessions look quite different from what you might see in a university department.
If someone was naughty, maybe it might be good in a way, because it might be helping someone.
Say a bit more about that idea. That's a new idea. How would it be good for a person to be naughty?
Well, sometimes some people have to do bad things to do good things. So,
For example, could you think of an example? Can anyone help with thinking of an example? She's just saying that maybe being naughty could be good sometimes, which is a weird and interesting idea. An example to pad out what she's saying.
You didn't do your homework, and there's a good side of that because there might be something else that you did good.
Okay.
Whilst you're not doing your homework.
Right. Is that a good example of what you meant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another respect in which they're different, I guess, is that sessions end with a reflection on the process itself.
Reflection, we're going to do what we've done before, which is we're going to think if there's anything in particular that someone else has said that we thought was really interesting, and we're just going to celebrate what they said.
I think it was a good idea when you all said that you could program it yourself to like what your parents think is right to tell you before.
Wow, yeah.
So in our project, consideration is given to the development of the children as a community of thinkers, not just as individuals. And this is something I think parents and teachers really value.
He's got an awful lot out of it. First of all, he's really enjoyed it, and that really helps with his wider learning. Secondly, I know it's really helped his confidence in public speaking. And thirdly, it's really helped him to think about some of the complex ideas that he's been introduced into in class. And certainly given some of the things he's been speaking about at home, that's really helped him to think about those in a more developed way.
He's loved philosophy, both in the classroom and in the philosophy club. I think one of the most important things he's learned is to listen to other people, take the time to hear other people's ideas.
I think he's really enjoyed it. He's got an ability to think a little bit more clearly. I've noticed that over the last few weeks, and certainly to articulate some of those ideas as well.
It's got lots of different things, some intended, some unintended. I think with school we know some of the knowledge we need to prepare children for, but some of the skills they need it's harder to divine, and because we don't know what they're going to end up doing when they're older. And philosophy gives them the skills to argue, to reason, to accept other people's points of view and change their thinking, and that flexibility I think is going to really help them in the long run. Plus for all our children, whether that's because they've got English as an additional language, whether because we're trying to push them on, having sort of academic and cognitive language that can really express their ideas, that's just really, really important to us, and philosophy has really helped with that.
The students taking part in the project commit for a whole year. We wanted them to be confident and competent to go into school, so the training in the first semester is quite lengthy. They read readings from the philosophy of education, they have practical workshops on the nuts and bolts of leading an inquiry, and they observe me working with the children in school. In the second semester they began the placements, but they weren't left to just sink or swim. Postgraduate mentors supervised all of the placements and were there with them at the beginning to plan the sessions and then afterwards to reflect on what they've done.
Well, I think the benefits to students are various actually. The most obvious benefit is of course that for those who are thinking of careers in things like teaching, it's obviously a wonderful way in. It's very hard to get onto teacher training courses these days without some experience in schools. And this gives our students experience in schools and helps them figure out if they really do want to do teaching as a career or not. What is philosophy? What is it to do philosophy? Doing this subject with children has really made them think hard about that, and I think it will have benefits for their philosophising as a whole.
I've enjoyed getting the opportunity to look at philosophy in a different way, and I guess interact with students with philosophy, which is something that I didn't think I'd get to do. I think it's been really productive for the students at the school to learn how to do philosophy, and I've really enjoyed seeing them develop. I think the biggest challenge is trying to find a way to make philosophy, the problems that we talk about in philosophy, interesting and relevant, and you have to sort of think a little bit differently. But once you start finding a situation where you can show the problem that something in philosophy deals with, then it actually becomes really fun, and it's probably been the most fun I've had this semester, trying to think of a way of making
animal ethics seem interesting and relevant, and the way I mainly did that was by using aliens that eat people.
One of the things I've really enjoyed about this project is working with the students. Their ability was a lot higher, and a lot of us didn't know what to expect because none of us had actually done philosophy with people as young as that, and so I think that is probably one of the things I'll remember about it most.
But the nice thing about Leeds Philosophy Exchange is it isn't like a volunteering project where just our time is all that you asked of us. You asked our skill as well. You asked our skill as a philosopher, and I didn't really think I was one until Grace told me we were, because we were in classrooms where we were the people who knew about philosophy. And that's a nice feeling as someone who's an undergraduate, and I'm really grateful that we had that.
You were really good philosophers, just as good as some of the philosophers that study at university. I mean, the ideas that I heard, and I was really intrigued by them, and it really took me by surprise.
Leading this project and working with the students and the teachers and listening to the children and what their parents have had to say about it all just reaffirms the kind of beliefs that make me get up for work in the morning. That philosophy is really fun and it's practical, and with the right support it can be for everyone.
Dwayne has received his award for increasing in confidence and joining in the discussions. And Hannah has received her award for insightful and considered contributions in philosophy sessions. Okay, so give everyone a massive round of applause.
I enjoyed doing a different way of learning, so instead of just sitting in a class and putting your hand up, it's kind of contributing in different ways. I've enjoyed talking about questions that we have difficulty in answering, and funny things like aliens eating ice cream with banana leaves.
I've enjoyed answering questions that not many people are brave enough to normally do.
It's always useful to have a common vocabulary with children. The fact that we all have a sort of way of sharing our ideas, that in school we have that sort of common language now, has helped. I'd studied philosophy at university and it doesn't seem to have hurt too much. So yeah.